Ever since Gen 1, there have always been Pokemon who could evolve into different Pokemon through different evolution methods. These branched evolutions often have different typings, abilities, and some of them even evolve again. But which side of the branch is better? In this video, I'm going to look at all of the Pokemon with split evolutions and work out which evolution is the better Pokemon. I'll be comparing the differences in stats, typings, abilities, move pools, and the Pokemon's availability to come up with the definitive answer. I won't be focusing too much on each Pokemon's competitive viability, but I'll talk about it when it's relevant to picking a winner between split evolutions. So let's get right to it. I'm going to start with one of the oldest split evolutions in the series, Vileplume versus Bellossom. Both of Gloom's evolutions have a lot in common. Both have similar stat spreads, move pools, and abilities. But I think Vileplume pretty clearly takes the win in this matchup. Vileplume's Poison Stab and higher special attack gives it an offensive edge over Bellossom, especially in games with the Fairy type. And Grass Poison is also a great defensive combination. While neither of them are getting much use out of Chlorophyll as an ability due to their low speed stats, having Effect Spore gives Vileplume more ways to hinder its opponents, compared to Healer on Bellossom, which isn't helping you in a playthrough and is too situational and competitive. So, the original Gloom evolution comes out on top here. Let's look at another branched evolution from the early days and compare Poliwrath to Politoed. This one is pretty clear cut. If you know anything about competitive Pokemon, you know that Politoed is the clear winner in this matchup. Let's go over the reasons why. Poliwrath is by no means a bad Pokemon. Its typing and balanced stats give it some good offensive firepower, and Water Absorb and Swift Swim are great abilities. Unfortunately, it comes up against Politoed, who has Drizzle instead of Swift Swim as its hidden ability. In competitive formats without Kyogre, Politoed is one of the premier weather setters on rain teams alongside Pelipper, thanks to Drizzle and its great bulk. All of Politoed's benefits suit playthrough teams as well. Its high bulk, decent special attack, and solid move pool make it a great water type to use on your team, even if you don't have access to Drizzle and have to settle for Water Absorb. The only problem with Politoed is its evolution method. King's Rocks are usually found late in the game, and being a trade evolution makes it even more restrictive. This has gotten better in more recent games where Politoed can be obtained in the wild or through raid battles, but it is hard to deny that you would be better off just slapping a Water Stone on Poliwhirl and using Poliwrath in any game before Gen 5. But I can still take points off of Poliwrath because of its move pool. It's reliant on TMs for access to more useful fighting type moves, which is a big deal in those earlier games where TMs were single use and again often found late in the game. So overall, I'm still giving Politoed the win here. Armarouge and Ceruledge are our most recent split evolutions, evolving from Charcadet when given either the Auspicious Armor or Malicious Armor, which are version exclusive items in Scarlet and Violet. These two are pretty hard to split. We have a case of two almost identical Pokemon that are differentiated by one being a physical attacker and the other being a special attacker. Both have the same abilities, and I would say that each one's signature moves are both great. Ceruledge does have the better defensive typing and is faster, but given that they both have the exact same weaknesses, and Armarouge uses the points it loses in speed to beef up its HP, I don't think typing gives Ceruledge as much of an advantage here. But I think there are two key areas that set them apart that I can use to pick a winner here. First off, Ceruledge may have the better defensive typing thanks to being part Ghost type, but this doesn't synergize well offensively for a physical attacker. Ceruledge's strongest physical Ghost type moves just aren't as good as Armarouge's strongest special Psychic type moves. Phantom Force and Poltergeist are both strong moves but are unreliable. Phantom Force is a 2-turn attack, meaning Armarouge can use Psychic twice in the same amount of turns, and Poltergeist only works if your opponent is holding an item, which doesn't help you on a normal playthrough. Meanwhile, Armarouge could be taking advantage of Psychic Terrain boosted Expanding Force. And that's the second difference. I think Armarouge is slightly more versatile. While they both get benefits from sunny weather, and Armarouge works well in Trick Room, and Ceruledge works well in Tailwind, Armarouge also enjoys the benefits of Psychic Terrain, not just to boost Expanding Force, but to boost any of its Psychic type moves. And when two Pokemon are so evenly matched, it's small differences like this that set them apart. So Armarouge wins as the best Charcadet evolution. Let's speed through a few simple split evolutions. Beautyfly and Dustox are both bad, but they are both branched evolutions of Wurmple. Both have pretty poor stats, underwhelming abilities, and no competitive presence to speak of. I can't even split these two based on how easy they are to obtain, because Wurmple evolves into one or the other based on a hidden personality value that the player has no control over, so you can't even pick which one you want. The main point of difference is that Dustox is built a bit better defensively, while Beautyfly leans more into its special attack. But they both have a slow speed stat, and because it's better to be slow and defensive than too slow to make use of your attack, I'm giving the win to Dustox here. Clampel's two evolutions, Huntail and Gorbis, also don't have much of a competitive presence, or any memorable presence, and are hard to split, sharing the same evolution method and outright best ability. For these two, it comes down to their stats and move pools. Both are designed to be fast attackers that take advantage of Swift Swim and or Shell Smash, with Gorbis being a special attacker and Huntail being a physical attacker. I'm giving Gorbis the win here for two reasons. Firstly, it just straight up has a higher primary attacking stat. Gorbis' base special attack is 114 compared to Huntail's base 104 attack. And secondly, the best water moves are usually special moves. Hydro Pump, Surf, and Scald are better on the whole than Aqua Tail and Waterfall, making Gorbis the better attacker with better moves. Let's go back to bugs and talk about Scyther's evolutions, Scizor and Kleavor. As a fun fact, Scyther doesn't actually increase its base stats when it evolves, it just reworks them and mainly gets stronger through the way the stats are reallocated along with the type changes. So which evolution is better? This one's pretty easy. It's Scizor. Its steel bug typing is amazing defensively. Just don't let it go near any sort of open flame. And Technician works really well with its move pool to give Scizor hard-hitting bullet punches and dual wing beats. Scizor can also Mega Evolve, which is only relevant for a few games, but it gives Scizor another edge over Kleavor. Kleavor isn't bad by any means. Having Sharpness as its hidden ability works incredibly well with its moveset, and it is quite a bit faster than Scizor and has a slightly higher base attack. But Technician Bullet Punch offsets the speed issue quite a bit, and I think all of Scizor's other advantages just outclass Kleavor's strengths. Scizor gets the win as the best Scyther evolution. Next are Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, and Hitmontop. Each of Tyrogue's evolutions brings something unique to the table. Hitmonlee brings all-out offense with the highest attack and speed stats of the three. Hitmonchan brings great coverage with a move pool that synergizes well with its Iron Fist ability that boosts punching moves. And Hitmontop brings good utility with great abilities and a competitive move pool. So which one is the martial arts master? To me, it's Hitmontop. Having access to Technician really complements its move pool and allows it to hit hard with moves like Rapid Spin, Triple Kick, Triple Axle, and Fake Out. Hitmontop also has a great competitive history too. Running Intimidate instead of Technician allows it to fill a role similar to Incineroar in VGC. Wolfie's World Champion team in 2016 even featured a Hitmontop, which was holding its own in a meta alongside the likes of Mega Rayquaza and Primal Kyogre. Hitmontop is sensei in this dojo. The next lot of split evolutions might seem complicated, but it's actually pretty simple to pick a winner. I'm talking about the Applin line. Applin can evolve into 3 different Pokemon. Flapple if given a tart apple, Appletun if given a sweet apple, or Dipplin if given a syrupy apple. Complicating things is the fact that Dipplin evolves again into Hydrapple, which none of the other evolutions do. And this easily makes Hydrapple the best of the 3 split evolutions. Its higher base stat total gives it a noticeably better primary attacking stat, while also buffing up its defenses a bit. It also gets access to Regenerator as an ability, which synergizes well with its extra bulk. While Flapple and Appletun's signature moves might have more reliable side effects than Hydrapple's signature move, Fickle Beam, this doesn't make up for the gaps in their stats in my opinion. And hitting that double power Fickle Beam does give a nice dopamine rush when it happens. So Hydrapple is the king of these dragons. Next up are Snorunt's evolutions Glalie and Froslass. And to me, Froslass is the clear winner. Glalie has even stats across the board and a somewhat gimmicky strategy by having Moody as an ability. Froslass on the other hand, trades a bit of bulk for a decent boost in speed, and its extra ghost typing negates the fighting type weakness and adds some extra resistances. Being a mixed attacker isn't ideal, but Froslass has a wider move pool than Glalie with more coverage options. Their base abilities are pretty comparable. Snowcloak and Ice Body each have their uses, but like I said, Moody is more of a gimmick and is too unreliable to depend on. The only points in Glalie's favour was that it could Mega Evolve, but now with the release of Legend ZA, Froslass has a Mega 2, and it's also better. While Glalie stays a mixed attacker when Mega Evolved, Froslass commits to being a special attacker and hits harder. If you're out hunting for a Snorunt, get yourself a female one and a Dawnstone. Now it's time for one of the trickier discussions, Wormadam. Female Burmy evolve into one of 3 forms of Wormadam depending on which cloak it's wearing when it evolves, Plant, Trash, or Sandy Cloak. Stats wise, each form has the same HP and speed stats, and the defensive stats total to the same amount, they're just split in different ways. So we have to find the best one based on their offensive stats. Plant Wormadam is a special attacker, Sandy is a physical attacker, and Trash is a mixed attacker. This is where Sandy Cloak drops out of the race. All 3 forms have different move pools, and even though Sandy Cloak can learn Earthquake via TM, it doesn't learn a stronger physical bug move than Bug Bite. Meanwhile, the other forms can make use of a higher special attack when using Bug Buzz. And in general, all forms can learn special attacking coverage moves via TM. Also, in the earlier games, you're not wasting your single-use Earthquake TM on a Wormadam. Now, normally I'd lean more towards a Pokemon with a clear primary attacking stat than a mixed attacker, but I'm actually going to give Trash Cloak Wormadam the win here. As we know with Scizor, Bug Steel is just such a great defensive typing, and completely negates all of the weaknesses that Plant Form has, except for that pesky 4x weakness to fire, but you're also not sending Plant Cloak Wormadam out against a fire type either. But we're not done with Wormadam yet. Male Burmy evolve into Mothim instead. Mothim is unfortunately also a mixed attacker, and even though its attacking stats are a fair bit higher than Trash Wormadam and it's a lot faster, there's one clear thing holding it back. As we learned with Beautifly, there's nothing worse than being a weak bug flying type. I mean, the whole Burmy line is weak, but if you're gonna get one, get yourself a female and make sure it's in the Trash Cloak when it evolves. Trash Cloak Wormadam is queen of the Burmy line. From the bottom of the barrel to the top, let's talk about Solgaleo and Lunala. It's easy to forget that the mascot legendaries of Sun and Moon are split evolutions, because legendaries don't even usually evolve, but picking which one is better is quite difficult. Both are equal stats wise, with Solgaleo being a physical attacker and Lunala being a special attacker. Both have great move pools and identical signature moves. I'm gonna give the win to Lunala here. Even though Solgaleo is much better defensively, Lunala's ability Shadow Shield helps to negate that and is useful in every battle. Solgaleo's ability Full Metal Body is still great, but not every battle will involve your opponent trying to drop your stats. Plus, Lunala has been very successful when it's been allowed in competitive VGC formats, much more so than Solgaleo. When it's finally time to take Nebby out of the bag, make sure you're playing Moon, Ultra Moon, or Violet. Next up is Gardevoir and Gallade. Any Curlier evolves into Gardevoir at level 30, but only male Curlier can evolve into Gallade when you use a Dawnstone. So is it worth hunting down a male Ralts and a Dawnstone? Maybe? Honestly, it's very hard to split these two, and the answer is kinda different depending on which game you're talking about. Stats wise, they're identical, with Gardevoir being a special attacker and Gallade being a physical attacker. Before Gen 6, Gallade probably had the advantage with its dual typing, but now that Gardevoir has the Fairy type, it outclasses Gallade defensively and offensively. Gallade's move pool also doesn't quite synergize with it being a physical attacker. It does learn a lot of great physical fighting type moves and physical coverage moves, but the strongest physical psychic type moves it learns are Psycho Cut and Zen Headbutt, which fall short against Gardevoir's strong stab moves, Psychic and Moonblast. Gallade did get Sharpness as an ability in Gen 9 though, which brings Psycho Cut's power up to 105 and allows it to hit a lot harder with some of its coverage moves. So if they're both pretty equal and there's some games where Gardevoir is better and some games where Gallade is better, can we split them based on their Mega evolutions? Both Megas are still really equal based on stats and moves, but I think Pixelate is the better ability for the boost it gives to moves like Hyper Voice. Inner Focus is great for competitive, but not so much for a playthrough. So who wins overall? I think I'm gonna go with Gardevoir, just because it's better in slightly more games than Gallade is. I think Gallade is better in Gen 4, 5, and Scarlet and Violet, whereas Gardevoir is better in Gen 6, 7, 8, and both Legends games. Plus, getting a Gardevoir is slightly less work. You don't need to hunt down a specific gender of Ralts or find a Dawnstone, giving Gardevoir the overall win. Let's keep the Psychic train rolling and compare Slowbro and Slowking. Both of Slowpoke's evolutions are identical across the board. They have the same typing, the same abilities, and very similar movesets. The only stat difference is that Slowbro has a higher physical defense and Slowking has a higher special defense. But it's actually really easy to split these two. Slowbro is the better evolution because of how much easier it is to obtain. Slowbro evolves from Slowpoke at level 37, compared to Slowking, who needs to be traded with the King's Rock. Plus, Slowbro can Mega Evolve, which makes it more useful in games with Mega Evolution. At least for now. Who knows what will happen in the Legends ZA DLC. If Froslass can get a Mega Evolution to match up with Glalie, it wouldn't surprise me to see a Mega Slowking at some point down the line. But we're not done yet. Slowbro and Slowking also have Galarian forms, which are split evolutions from Galarian's Slowpoke. So are they any different? Well, their stats definitely are. Big time. Galarian Slowbro becomes a mixed attacker, while Galarian Slowking becomes a special attacker with higher special bulk. Their abilities change too. Galarian Slowbro gains Quick Draw, which functions like the Quick Claw item, and Galarian Slowking gains Curious Medicine, which kinda sucks. Curious Medicine removes your ally's stat changes when Galarian Slowking comes into battle, which is too situational to be reliable. You're probably keeping Regenerator on both Galarian forms. The evolution methods also change. Galarian Slowbro evolves when given a Galactica Cuff, and Galarian Slowking evolves when given a Galactica Wreath. So I can't split these two based on how easy they are to get this time. You would think the Pokemon with a clear primary attacking stat would win, but I'm not so sure. Let's have a look at each Pokemon's signature moves. Galarian Slowbro learns Shell Sidearm, a base 90 power move that has a 20% chance to poison, and can be a physical or special move depending on which would deal more damage. Shell Sidearm is great because it doesn't matter if you train your Slowbro to be a physical attacker or a special attacker. Galarian Slowking on the other hand learns Eerie Spell, an 80 base power move that also decreases the PP of your opponent's last used move by 3, which can have its uses but is also quite situational. I think head to head, Shell Sidearm is better than Eerie Spell. It has a higher base power, more PP, and a more beneficial side effect, even if it has a less reliable chance of occurring. But Galarian Slowking actually got another signature move in Gen 9, Chilly Reception. Actually, normal Slowking also got this as a signature move too, so it's just kind of a new Slowking signature move in general. Chilly Reception has a user tell a bad joke, summon Snow for 5 turns, and then switch out to another party member. Telling the bad joke is actually very lore critical to this move. Even with a second signature move, I'm giving Galarian Slowbro the win over Galarian Slowking. Chilly Reception just doesn't benefit Galarian Slowking enough on a normal playthrough, and even though Galarian Slowking is quite good in competitive singles, I still think Galarian Slowbro is the all-round better Pokemon thanks to its signature move. This is a good segue to go over a whole new category of split evolutions, regional forms. There are some Pokemon evolutionary lines like the Vulpix line, where the whole line gains a regional form, so we can essentially treat them as separate evolutionary lines, but some regional forms, like Raichu and Weezing, evolve from non-regional pre-evolutions, which essentially means the new regional forms split off from the evolutionary branch. I still think these count as split evolutions, even though you can't exactly choose which split evolution you want in a particular game. It depends on the region you're in. Well, mostly. You can actually evolve Pokemon into their non-Alolan forms if you're in Ultra Space, in Ultra Sun, and Ultra Moon. So you could choose between the two evolutions in those games. But let's go over all of the regional forms anyway and compare them to see which split one is better. Both Executor and Alolan Executor are pretty evenly matched stats-wise, as well as defensively in their type combinations. Cantonian Executor's base ability Chlorophyll is better on paper than Alolan Executor's Frisk, but they're both so slow that Chlorophyll isn't worth it and doesn't give Cantonian Executor the edge. You're probably better off running their shared ability Harvest, so we can't split them based on abilities. The evolution method is the same, and neither of them really have a competitive presence to speak of. So it's going to have to come down to move pool, and I think Alolan Executor gets the win here. Its access to hard-hitting dragon-type stab moves and strong coverage moves like Flamethrower give it the edge. One Alolan matchup that's very easy to call is Raichu. Alolan Raichu is the clear winner here. Having Psychic as a second typing brings with it strong Psychic type stab moves and plenty of benefits on Psychic terrain. Its incredibly useful ability Surge Surfer also means that Alolan Raichu thrives on electric terrain, and overall it outclasses the Cantonian form pretty easily. Cantonian Raichu does get some points for having Lightning Rod as a hidden ability, but it's not enough to move the needle for me. Maybe Mega Raichu X and Mega Raichu Y will make a difference when the Legends ZA DLC drops, but for now, Alolan Raichu takes the crown. It's a similar case for Alolan Marowak over Cantonian Marowak. Its Fire Ghost typing gives it heaps of benefits both offensively, with great stab moves, and defensively, with extra resistances and immunities. The abilities also set the two apart. Notice how both Marowaks have Lightning Rod? Yeah, well that's completely useless on the ground type Cantonian Marowak. So Lightning Rod on Alolan Marowak gives it another immunity and tops off the list of reasons why Alolan Marowak is better. Let's head to Galar now and talk about Weezing. And yeah, we're not done with the regional forms dunking on the base forms. It's not quite as extreme in this case. Weezing has its uses defensively, and in competitive, you might not want to have Galarian Weezing's Steel type weakness depending on the meta, but overall, and especially for a playthrough, Galarian Weezing's Fairy typing gives it extra offensive tools and extra resistances and immunities that help out defensively. Galarian Weezing also comes out on top in abilities. With access to Misty Surge, Galarian Weezing is the only non-legendary Pokemon that can set up Misty terrain without taking up a move slot, which allows it that extra bit of utility that Cantonian Weezing doesn't have. So the winner here is Galarian Weezing. The next Galarian form we have to talk about is a little complicated. Both Mr. Mime and Galarian Mr. Mime evolve from Mime Jr. when leveled up knowing Mimic. But then Galarian Mr. Mime evolves again at level 42 into Mr. Rhyme. So who are we comparing here? Cantonian Mr. Mime to Mr. Rhyme? But even though you'd think that Mr. Rhyme would be stronger with its higher base stat total, things aren't that simple. Both forms of Mr. Mime are actually faster than Mr. Rhyme, and Cantonian Mr. Mime isn't actually that far behind in its special attack stat. It's mainly the bulk where the Mimes lose out to Mr. Rhyme. But we can change that. If you give Galarian Mr. Mime an Eeveelution to increase its defenses by 50%, it actually becomes bulkier than Mr. Rhyme. Galarian Mr. Mime is still lacking a bit in its special attack, but that's okay, because Mr. Mime is more of a support or utility Pokemon. So does that mean Galarian Mr. Mime is actually the best? Let's look at their abilities. Galarian Mr. Mime and Mr. Rhyme's standout ability is Screen Cleaner, which is useful but pretty situational. Meanwhile, Cantonian Mr. Mime's standout ability is Technician, which is very helpful for its coverage moves and early and mid-game stab moves. It just tapers off a bit in the late game when Mr. Mime eventually learns moves like Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, and Energy Ball. Speaking of move pools, both Mr. Mimes have access to plenty of support moves like Screens and Encore, but Cantonian Mr. Mime is better placed to make use of them with its better speed. I also think Cantonian Mr. Mime's Psychic Fairy typing is better than the Psychic Ice of the other two. As we talked about before, Fairy provides some great offensive power, while adding Ice type is always going to make a Pokemon worse defensively. Overall, here's how I'd rank them. Galarian Mr. Mime with Eeveelution is better than Mr. Rhyme, but Cantonian Mr. Mime is better than Galarian Mr. Mime. Cantonian Mr. Mime's special defense isn't actually that far behind an Eeveelution boosted Galarian Mr. Mime's, and adding to that all the other benefits Cantonian Mr. Mime has going for it seals the win. Let's move over to Hisuian now, and return to our regularly scheduled programming of regional forms beating out their originals. Hisuian Samurott and Hisuian Typhlosion both take the win over their base forms. Both gain secondary typings which benefit them offensively and defensively. Hisuian Typhlosion gains a boost to its primary special attack stat, while Hisuian Samurott actually becomes a physical attacker, which is great when combined with its new ability Sharpness, which increases the power of slicing moves by 50%. This pairs very nicely with its new signature move, Ceaseless Edge. Hisuian Typhlosion's signature move, Infernal Parade, is pretty good too, but it benefits the most by an all-round improved move pool. Hisuian Decidueye is harder to place though. It does receive a boost to its attack, which works nicely with its new fighting typing and move pool. Its signature move is crazy good too. Triple Arrows has been reworked a bit between Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet, but both iterations of the move are very good. On the other hand, I think Alolan Decidueye has a much better typing and hidden ability. Grass Ghost is significantly better defensively than Grass Fighting, and while Hisuian Decidueye's Scrappy is nice, Alolan Decidueye's long reach really lets it hit hard with physical moves without worrying about any negative effects from abilities like Flame Body, Curse Body, or Rough Skin. Plus, Alolan Decidueye is just that bit faster, which helps a Pokemon that's built to be a strong attacker. Overall, I'm giving the win to Alolan Decidueye here. Another base form that has a case over its Hisuian counterpart is Braviary. The key difference between these two is obviously that Unova Braviary is a physical attacker, while Hisuian Braviary is a special attacker with the added Psychic type. The thing that really cripples Hisuian Braviary though is its low base 65 speed. It just makes it really hard to use Hisuian Braviary effectively as an attacker when it's getting outsped a lot of the time. Hisuian Braviary could deal out big damage with sheer force boosted moves, or build up speed with its signature move Esper Wing, but it also doesn't really have the bulk to offset its low speed, whereas Unova Braviary comes right out of the gate with decent speed, better primary attacking stat, and a hard-hitting physical move pool. Plus, Unova Braviary can also make use of sheer force, or run Defiant for powerful attack boosts. The original Freedom Bird takes the win here. Let's keep the wins for base forms rolling and talk about Avalugg. This is really a win by default. Both forms of Avalugg are bad, but Hisuian Avalugg is comically bad. Avalugg was already a slow Pokemon with the worst defensive typing in the game. It could only really take hits from physical attacks thanks to its extremely high physical defense. Hisuian Avalugg ups the ante by adding the rock typing, giving it extra weaknesses, and then reducing its special defense even further, all for a pitiful speed gain which won't make a difference. Don't use either of these Pokemon, but if you are, make sure your Bergmite isn't in Hisui before it evolves. Let's round out regional split evolutions with a couple of Hisuian forms that can claim clear victories over their regular counterparts. Hisuian Lilligant gets the win over Unova Lilligant thanks to its higher base speed and better move pool. Even though they both share Chlorophyll as an ability, the extra speed makes Hisuian Lilligant more threatening under Sun, both offensively and with status moves like Sleep Powder. The secondary fighting type also opens up a bunch of extra moves that take advantage of its new primary physical attack stat. And in general, Hisuian Lilligant just has a much more diverse move pool. Hisuian Goodra is even more of a standout winner over its Colossian counterpart. Steel Dragon is just such great typing, and the added points to its defensive stats gives it better survivability, despite the lower speed. In competitive, this gives Hisuian Goodra a nicely defined role as a tank, and for a normal playthrough, it gives you a reliable defensive Pokemon that can still hit hard. Given that everything else is pretty equal in the abilities and move pool department, Hisuian Goodra's typing and synergy with its stats give it the win here. The next group of split evolutions is practically a whole category on their own. It's time to talk about the Eeveelutions. As the original poster child for split evolutions, Eevee is one of the most unique Pokemon in the franchise, being able to evolve into 8 different Pokemon depending on the evolution stone used, the time of day, or what kind of moves it knows. Now, if you've been paying attention to this list, you've probably noticed that there's one type that I keep calling out as a clear factor when deciding which split evolution is better. A type that provides a lot offensively and defensively. And because of that, you can probably guess which Eeveelution I'm going to say is the best. Sylveon takes the win over all the other Eeveelutions thanks to its powerful fairy typing and strong hidden ability Pixelate, which gives a nice boost to moves like Swift in the early game and Hyper Voice in the mid to late game. Sylveon doesn't have the highest primary attack stat out of all of the Eeveelutions, but its special attack stat is still quite strong and it enjoys a good spread of bulk across the board. This isn't to say that the other Eeveelutions are bad, it's just that when you're comparing Pokemon whose differentiating feature is their typing, it's hard to go past the fairy type being so strong. And Sylveon's typing plus its move pool and stat spread gives it the win overall. In a playthrough, you'll get something out of most of the Eeveelutions. Jolteon is a super fast special attacker that was famously great in Gen 1. Umbreon has a great utility moveset, Glaceon hits really hard with its high special attack, Flareon exists, I guess, but when looking at them all objectively, Sylveon is the standout winner. Let's end the video by talking about more Pokemon like Wormadam, who evolve into different forms of the same Pokemon, but because you can't change the form once they've evolved, they're effectively split evolutions. Let's talk about Urshifu first. Cubfu evolves into either Single Strike Urshifu when exposed to the Scroll of Darkness, or Rapid Strike Urshifu when exposed to the Scroll of Water. Both forms have the same stats, but different typings and moves. So which one is better? These two are really hard to split because they're so even across the board. Both have had a strong presence in competitive, both have great move pools, both even have a G-Max move with the same effect. Single Strike probably has the better defensive typing, but Rapid Strike gets benefits under Rain that Single Strike doesn't thanks to its water typing. The real answer is that the best form will depend on the rest of your team and what typings and needs you need filled, and for competitive, it will depend on the current meta. But because I need to give a definitive answer, I'm gonna go with Single Strike Urshifu for a couple of reasons. Turning the Psychic weakness into an immunity with the secondary Dark type is really helpful. When the margins are so fine, this is a point in Single Strike's favor. On top of that, when it comes to signature moves, Rapid Strike Urshifu's Surging Strikes hits the opponent multiple times. This puts it in danger of receiving negative effects from abilities or items the opponent might have that inflict status conditions or lower your stats when hit with contact moves. And hitting multiple times opens you up to taking multiple negative effects in the one attack. So Single Strike Urshifu takes the crown. Next up is Toxel, and you might have to settle in for this one. Toxel can evolve into either amped up form Toxtricity or low key form Toxtricity, depending on which nature it has. Both forms have the same stats and abilities, so how do we tell them apart? Literally one move. Well, it used to be 2, but now it's 1. I'll explain. Amped up Toxtricity can learn Shift Gear at level 52, a status move that increases your speed by 2 stages and your attack by 1 stage. Meanwhile, low-key Toxtricity learns Magnetic Flux at level 52, a status move that raises the defense and special defense of an allied Pokemon with either the plus or minus ability by 1 stage. The other difference is that in their debut generation, Gen 8, amped up Toxtricity could learn Venoshock by TM, whereas low-key form could learn Venom Drench. But now in Gen 9, their TM learn set has been unified, so that they can both learn Venoshock, but now neither learns Venom Drench. So that complicates things a bit, but at least we can look at their level up moveset and see that Shift Gear is clearly better than Magnetic Flux. So amped up form is better, right? Well, it's not that simple. Shift Gear gives a boost to physical attack, but overall Toxtricity is a special attacker who wants to use its ability Punk Rock in combination with powerful sound-based moves like Overdrive and Boom Burst. The problem is that all of the natures that give a boost to special attack are the natures that cause Toxel to evolve into low-key form Toxtricity. Even though you're only benefiting from the speed boost from Shift Gear, you still want it over Magnetic Flux, and in Gen 8 you definitely want Venoshock over Venom Drench. So really, the best split evolution here is an amped up form Toxicity that you then use a nature mint on to boost its special attack. The other Pokemon in this category, and the last Pokemon on this list, is Lycanroc. Rockruff can evolve into 3 different forms of Lycanroc based on a time of day. It will evolve into midday form if leveled up during the day, it will evolve into midnight Lycanroc if leveled up at night, and it will evolve into dusk Lycanroc if leveled up during a specific window in the evening and has the ability Own Tempo. For a quick overview of the differences, midday and dusk Lycanroc are fast physical sweepers, while midnight form trades some speed for better defenses while still having the same attack power. Abilities wise, they all have strong cases to make. Midday form can double its speed in sandstorms with Sand Rush to make it an even faster sweeper. Midnight form can make use of No Guard to hit strong stone edges with perfect accuracy, and dusk form gets a 30% boost to its contact moves thanks to Tough Claws. All forms have pretty similar move pools with one exception. Midday and dusk Lycanroc get access to Accelerock, which Midnight doesn't. This is where I think Midnight form drops out of the race. Being tankier but slower is not as great a benefit for a rock type with lots of weaknesses, and not having Accelerock to offset that means it can't compete with the other forms. So it's down to midday and dusk. I'm going to give the win to dusk Lycanroc due to its ability Tough Claws. Boosting all of its contact moves by 30% is fantastic, and its access to Accelerock offsets the minor drop in speed it has compared to midday form. The only downside to dusk form is that it can be hard to obtain. On the whole, you can only get an Own Tempo Rockruff by breeding a Dusk Lycanroc or another Own Tempo Rockruff. In the Alola games, you could only get Own Tempo Rockruff via an event distribution. In Sword and Shield, there's one specific raid den that has a chance to spawn Own Tempo Rockruff and Dusk Lycanroc in the Isle of Armor DLC, but now in Scarlet and Violet, you can find Own Tempo Rockruff and Dusk Form Lycanroc in the wild, as well as in raid dens. So it can be tricky, but it's not enough of a factor for me to discount Dusk Form Lycanroc as the best form of Lycanroc. And that's it. That's my verdict on each split evolution and which one is better. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. If you disagree with any of my choices or have some thoughts of your own, I'd love to read them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.